What's going on, everyone? Costi here with Eric. Tales from the Ticket, episode number 35. New year. This is the second edition in 2026. I am now turned the clock to 43 years old after my birthday yesterday. I don't feel any different. Don't feel any different. I thought I would.
Special birthday. It's your last fatherless birthday.
My last fatherless birthday as I'm awaiting my first child here at the end of March. A lot of cool things on the horizon for me personally, but first and foremost, we're here 7 days a week.
You imagine you're waiting for your first child, and my daughter's waiting for her college acceptance letters.
Why is that?
I'm just saying, like the differential. That's a
differential. You're older than me.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, it's just wild. If I would have known then what I know now, and I could have just bought Bitcoin when she was born, and we wouldn't even be talking.
Well, we could have, should have, would have.
No,
I could have kept my Bitcoin in 2009, and I did not as well. So can't live in the past. It's always a miss.
How about let's tell everybody our Bitcoin store. We had a client pay us in Bitcoins at a very low price. It was like the service fee was 43.5 Bitcoins. And we didn't think anything of it. We just cashed it in because it's just a way to transmit money. And, we always joke if we would have kept the 43.5 Bitcoins. And that was only in 2018.
Wasn't that was only 2018, right?
I still have her. She's still a client on our phone. Yeah.
Because it was 8,000 a coin back then.
I can tell you right now.
It was. I trust.
I can tell you what the date was that she sent it.
What's up, Bobby? Talked to him the other day.
August 20th, 2018. She sent 43.5 Bitcoins for services rendered at 8,000 a coin. So let's see, 43. Well, you can do the math times 100,000.
No, it's basically 12x.
Right.
It's way worse story when I had it at $4 a Bitcoin in 2009 and didn't decide to hold it for different reasons that we don't need to get into on this show.
Hey, listen, you can. It doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, like I said, I was using the underground web and had no intention of keeping anything. It was just a currency for me to use because it was the only currency I was allowed to use on a site called Silk Road. For any of we have a lot of crypto clients. We have a lot of crypto watchers, I'm sure, in this podcast that will tell you that it was much harder to buy Bitcoin back then. It was not go to Coinbase and just click a button and buy. You had to fund your account through your bank. Then you take that specific account and then fund it through the exchange server. It was much harder to do back then. And it was much harder to buy coins back then on a larger scale. Everything was limited because it was so new in general. But we don't live in the past here. It's a good story for me to tell for the rest of my life. It's like that pizza guy, the guy that bought the pizza with 100 Bitcoins, right?
Oh, right.
1,000 Bitcoins.
Yeah.
So, but it's as we're into the middle of January right now, as we always talk about it, our brains are always focused on the future. And as good as the entertainment can be with NFL football on Saturday and Sunday for watching purposes, and really the caveat to it all is we're not focused on the NFL. We're focused on underdogs, and there's only 2 sports out there that generate the type of revenue that are not rated games. Now, we have other funds and indexes that we support that have different ratings on every game. But when it comes to underdogs, hockey is king and baseball is next. Now, I'm super excited for baseball. I know it's coming up very soon. It's going to be
March 25th.
So my daughter is supposed to be
25th
born.
to September. Regular season's March 25th to September 29th.
Right. So, like we always say, the baseball season is almost as long as a pregnancy. And my wife got pregnant in July, and she's giving birth March 27th, 2 days after the baseball season starts. If it all goes well on that date, it could obviously be earlier, it could be a little later. We're not really sure, but that is the expectation. Now, I know you talk about it in your videos quite often, but I want to hear a full explanation why sports like NHL and baseball are so significantly better without ratings than any other sport.
Well, it's only better if you're playing, like the reel that we just posted on PickDawgz or on my Instagram. It's only better if you're only playing dogs. I mean, let's not forget that the bigger question is why less people wager on hockey and baseball. It's because most people aren't actually wagering to make money. Most people are just wagering because they're fans. And again, I know it sounds when I say it, but it's the truth. I mean, I look at the amount of people that have subscribed to the Base Dime Club, where I was giving them trials of hockey with basketball, only to then turn around after winning 16 units, 18 units, 20 units. Oh, I didn't play the hockey because I didn't like it or I didn't know anything about it. So, or, like I had this guy the other day, like I said, how much are you betting a game? And he said $250. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why bother? Like $250. Like now I could do a whole monologue on the show about the stupidity of the people that I've been dealing with. And I've had a lot of guys that set themselves up to lose. But the answer to your question is you're not worrying about a team covering. It's just the pure essence of the outright winner versus worrying about the point spread moving. I'll give you an example. We talk about our good friend Troy, right? He gave me a play yesterday. He hasn't started full with NBA yet. He said, just watch it. And he said the first play he was releasing was the Bulls yesterday on the money line, minus 220. And the Bulls were minus 5.5. And they won 128 to 126. And what I explained to him is it's not sellable to the general public because the general public cares less about. So you have this bipolar scenario. If you bought a stock for $1 and you sold it for $2, you're extremely happy. That's what you're doing when you're laying 200. So when I say don't bet favorites, I don't bet favorites on the money line because I don't have the system. When you take a guy like him and he's risking 220 to win 100, he's getting a 50% return on his investment. He's risking $2 and he's selling the stock at $3. So when you're laying 200 on a game and the game wins, right? In essence, you bought the stock for $2. You sold the stock for $3. You actually made a 50% return on your investment when there's a strategy employed. And he's always been frustrated because he makes a living doing this for the last 25 years. Why isn't this scalable to the general public? I said, it's not there because the market isn't there because most people don't want to do that. The flip side of that is if you're not playing with a strategy and you're laying 200, you're going to get killed, right? Because he's spot playing. And like yesterday was a perfect example. He plays the Bulls, they win. You play the Bulls minus 5.5, you lose. He's proving why that particular game based on his algorithm was warranted. The flip side of it is with baseball and hockey, every time you go 1-1, you're making money as opposed to losing juice. Now, we have guys that have been dealing with us for decades. They get it. It's basically the new breed of player so let me say this nicely. If you live in a state where sports wagering is legal and you never made a wager till sports wagering was legal, you're a loser. I don't mean you're personally a loser. We just know that you're not. We know that you're not winning money. I have to answer this call, even though we're live. That's live TV. So, hello. Hi. Okay.
Well, we're live with Eric on this important call.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Well, basically, what I to touch on what Eric was saying is when you're betting on a specific sport, are you doing it for entertainment or are you doing it because you're looking at a long-term profit target? Most sports bettors don't have the bandwidth to look at it from a big scope. It's just the way it is. I could try to teach people, I could try to have expectations. We have had funds this year, specifically with the likes of a rated model that was not successful in churning a profit between October and December, but nobody's freaking out because they understand that that index has been going around for years. And of course, when you're betting sports, it's never going to be a linear line. People expect it. But I'm still like baffled when I talk to people that are very successful in their own right with their own businesses that they think that sports betting has to be a linear line. I don't know why that's the case. I've done case studies. I've talked to a lot of sharps. I've talked to a lot of people that teach people how to find value, which has nothing to do with selling their actual plays. And I never can get a straight answer out of that. Why the regular Joe Schmo sports bettor doesn't understand that there's going to be extreme volatility with rated games.
Well, no, you just answered your question. Better, 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 better. If you're a bettor, you're a loser. If you're a trader, you're a winner. If you're a bettor, you're a loser. If you're a trader, you're a winner. These are bettors, which is a synonym for gamblers. And if you're a gambler, you're a loser. And you're never going to be a winner, period. It's not up for debate. This is going to be the year of me being vicious with a scalpel. No holds bar, no be my friend. I don't give a fuck if you don't like the truth. If you're a gambler, it's like these people in my comments on my videos. They're all losers. You win 13 games in a row, lose a game. Oh man, Eric had a bad play on the Steelers. It's like they're not betting to make money. Once you understand that most people are not betting to make money, they're betting for dopamine to stick a needle in their arm and get high, then it all makes sense. Why is it that I only deal with people that are affluent people running Fortune 500 companies, trading on Wall Street, running hedge funds? Why running crypto funds? Why is that? Because they are traders first and gamblers second. They're not even gamblers. So it's like you're asking a question. Now, don't get me wrong. Al is a perfect example of somebody who says, give them what they want. Like, you're not going to change people. I'm not in the conversion business, right? I'm not in the proselytizing business. I'm not going to take a gambler and make him a trader. When the guy has enough pain, then he will learn. When he's shaking his head and he's saying, why me? Why me? Why me? I've done all this. Because when you talk to these clients, it's the same old story. They only talk to you about where they stand in the micro. And I think what happens is a lot of the show that we do is the psychology aspect to kind of like shake somebody, like kind of nicely grab them by their scalp, take their head and slam it against the wall and say, you stupid fuck, you're going to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And then you're upset because you can't figure out why it's so hard to win. You know what I mean? And so what happens is, like, for me, when you've been doing this 40 years and you understand that 99% of these people aren't going to ever win, even if you give them winners, right? So, and I know, for instance, last baseball season, I was down 11 units at the All-Star break. I had like 20% of the newbies. Man, you suck. You told me baseball was so easy. Blah, 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 blah. And they're on Telegram and they just threw in the towel and they stopped playing. And then at the end of the season, I'm posting the records. Hey, man, we made 38 units from that point, 27 units net. And call the guy back. Hey, how'd you enjoy the baseball? Oh, because you were down in July. I stopped playing in August and September and October. Like, is that somebody that actually wanted to follow a system and make money? Of course not.
But isn't that the same thing as it is the same thing? You get a personal trainer, you go to the gym, for 2 months, you see no results. You're going to the gym every day, you're following the regiment, you're paying for the personal trainer, you're following his nutrition plan, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, but you're not physically seeing any results, so you quit. But had you stuck through it, eventually, as we all know, your metabolism changes, your habits change, and eventually it's a slow process. That's the long game when you're working out. Again, Eric and myself, Eric is not a fan of sports. I am, as you could see by the wall behind me, but we're both athletes. We both participate in the health and wealth of our lives outside of trading. Eric is a cyclist.
I'm looking at D Berg's comment. Why, when you say why not just bet stocks? There's no betting stocks and there's no betting sports. Who said I'm not? But that's not what I do for a living. That's not the advice that I offer and sell. Who said I'm not? To me, it's all the same. Crypto, options, gold, silver, natural gas, oil, stocks, sports. Once you treat everyone as the same, not different, then you understand that the definition of being a trader is what? So, Costi, what's the definition of being a trader? I'll answer. It's being a risk manager. It's knowing how to manage risk. That's all it is. So if you know how to manage risk in the stock market, and you can apply that ability to manage risk in the commodities market, in the crypto market, in the sports market. But most people, remember, what is the big leak for most people? Most people, when you ask them, when they go to a financial advisor, the financial advisor will say, how much money are you looking to invest in this fund? And the guy will say 5,000, well, not, 10,000, 50,000, 20,000, or I'm going to dollar cost average and I'm going to invest $300 out of every paycheck, et cetera, et cetera. Most gamblers, not traders. What you say? What do you bet? What's your bankroll? And they go, I bet 1,000 a game. So they actually don't even answer the question that you asked. So if you were sitting in front of a financial advisor in a bank, and the guy was sitting here and he had a prospectus of this fund and this fund and this fund, and he said, based upon your age, the younger you are, the more aggressive you can be. And the older you are, the less aggressive you should be. I just took a phone call. It was regarding my 87-year-old father's health. If he was in a fund, he's going to be less aggressive because he's 87 years old versus me at 53 years old. I can be more aggressive. And then obviously my son at 21 years old can be super aggressive. So a lot of the conversations are spent trying to get a player to actually discern what they're actually wagering capital is. And then they give you the death sentence of their financial betting. You know what the death sentence is?
What's that?
Depends on how I do. Those four words, right? So now there is no capital. I'm going to start with a couple bucks and it depends on how I do. Do what? This quarter? This 6-month period? No, tonight. So that guy's already what we call dead money. He can't win. And so what happens is,
well, here's a guy right here. It's the same client. He just answered his own question.
Yeah. So if you have a passion, just never make another bet again. Just be a fan, and you're.
He doesn't like it boring. Unfortunately, boring is the only way that you could succeed. Again, you could.
No, listen. Don't get me. No. Don't. No.
You can make money betting sports.
He could be.
You're borrowing money. You're not pulling anything out.
No. He could be profitable. Who's to say this guy isn't up 307%? We're not saying that. Anyone can win short term. Right? That's not an issue, right? Most of the phone calls that I get are very unique, because the way I look at it when I get a phone call is they're the patient calling the doctor, but instead they're the patient calling the doctor to tell the doctor that they're a better doctor than they are. So I always get confused. Why is the client calling? Yeah, I do like this bozo. I don't want to use the word bozo. I'm not going to, you know what? I'm not going to even mention the guy. He's probably watching, and I don't want to get in a verbal war with him. But I'm not going to specifically call out anything other than to say there's a lot of people out there that they lie to themselves. They will literally say to me on the phone, I want to learn how to do this as a living. And then in the same sentence will say they're very good in a particular sport, but not good in another sport. And if they just stuck to their own sport, they would make all this money. But then they have no money to bet. I mean, I had a guy the other day, he literally told me, I'm 90% in XYZ sport. He's probably watching, so I'm not going to out his ass. He's in Indiana.
90%.
Yeah. I'm 90% in this sport. Oh, I stopped betting your this and I stopped betting that because I don't have enough bankroll to do it the way you want to do it. Spend an hour and 20 minutes on the phone guiding the guy. And in the end, what am I doing? Because I take it, I'm passionate about teaching people the psychology. And it's funny, I was talking to one of the guys who runs the show in the back of PickDawgz. And, you know, I literally could just, instead of selling the actual advice, you know, have psychological, like 1 hour consultation calls and just get their brain right. So I'll do all this, explain everything to the client, explain to the guy that's really like easy. Like, you know, we have our guy V. He's been a client of ours forever, you know, in Jersey, New York, you know, V. He sent you the picture of the big gold $90,000 chain.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, yeah, man, I just hate. He knows everything. He knows how easy it is to win. And because you're not managing the client's money, you're always at the mercy of their instincts. Are they going to play today? Are they not going to play today? Are they going to make the bets? Are they not going to make the bets? Remember, I've said this on every show. Money managers have it made in the shade. They take the money, they bet the money, or invest the money, trade the money, and then they just send out a quarterly report. When you're actually making the client his own money manager, you are at the mercy of, will he actually follow the advice? And can he look long-term as opposed to short-term? I do have empathy for people because I realize it's hard, right? It's much easier if you put your money in a mutual fund and you just get a statement every 6 months. I get that. But the flip side is, you know, got to have some discipline.
Here's a question for you, Eric. Hope this doesn't offend y'all, but what happens if a customer starts with a 10K?
Sure, you can lose that.
Program?
Shouldn't be betting if you're. So the answer to your question, it's the wrong question. The wrong question is, if you're betting with money that you can't afford to lose, you shouldn't be betting. That's the answer. This is like we're all fucking grown men or women. Every time I make a bet, this is how psychologically a trader bets. So when you trade, not to get into the weeds with people that don't know about the stock market, but a lot of people probably do, or the crypto market, you buy a stock, $3. You're willing to risk 20 cents. You put a stop loss at 280. If the stock goes down to 280, you get a stop loss triggered. You cut your loss at 280. It's in sports, it's the opposite. Your stop loss is the amount of money that you're actually risking on the game. So you're doing it ahead of time. So if I'm willing to lose 20% on a game, or 20 cents on a game as an example, and I have $100,000 and I'm willing to lose 2% on a game, I'll bet $2,000 on the game. If it's a zero-sum game, at the end of 4 hours, if that game loses, I lose $2,000. I already know what my risk is going into it. There's no unlimited downside. There's no margin call with sports betting. Sports betting is actually easier to manage because the reason why people get screwed in the stock market and in crypto is they fall in love with their positions. They pull their stops out. They buy, they double down. They hope and pray that it's going to go up. Yeah, for certain things like Bitcoin in the last 3 weeks, it worked. Bitcoin 3 weeks ago was at 80,000, and now it's at 97,000. It's gone up 17,000 in 3 weeks, but it was 126,000 on October 5th.
Right.
So from 126,000 down to 80. If you have enough money, you just keep plowing into it. And now, but most people don't trade like that. So with the sports this is you're not offending me at all. I'm offended by clients that are undercapitalized and aren't playing with pure fuck you money. Nobody should be betting with any money. It's like some of these things are so like elementary that it shouldn't even have to be said. But for whatever reason, I put myself in this position to say it, which is like, every time you make a wager while that game is pending, your assumption is the game is a loser, it's over. Because the whole concept of risk management is that you're worried about if every game I wager loses, how much do I have left for the next day's wagers? Not if I win, not if I lose. This is all bullshit, right? So the reality is your question isn't the right question. If you're worried about losing the 10K, put it in the fucking savings account and make 1%. Scared money doesn't make any money, whether it's stocks, whether it's crypto, whether it's sports. That's the answer. This should never even be a question. None of this money should have anything to do with your bills, your credit, nothing. It's extra money that is set aside for the purpose of any of the trading activities you want to do, whether it be, again, crypto, stocks, sports.
So I'll answer this one. So yeah, dogs absolutely win in soccer also. The problem with soccer is because we have such a large demographic of clients, a lot of them are US based, and a lot of the leagues that our groups play in are sub-market leagues, like secondary and third league, Switzerland and Hungary, and the secondary La Liga. So a lot of people in the States here, unfortunately, don't have access to be able to bet those games. So we don't really, it's a very niche product that we offer only to a select few that could actually get money down on these games. A lot of them happen to be international clients that have books that could take any soccer game. But yes, I mean, anytime there's a game without a spread, like NHL and baseball or soccer, if you're constantly playing underdogs, you're never going
to. So before the NHL strike, way back, you can Google it. Soccer game, NHL games ended could end in a draw like soccer, right? So what you're saying really is no, because you can tie in soccer. So the reason why NHL and MLB are much more profitable from the dog side is you can't tie. So the fact that you can tie actually equalizes everything you just said.
But it does what if you have the right strategy and information, the dog value is actually higher.
Listen, Micah was hammering soccer games yesterday. We're betting soccer all day. I get it. I'm just making a point that it's different because if I bet 100 baseball games, 100 times there's going to be a winner and a loser. And if I bet 100 NFL games, 100 times there's going to be NHL games, there's going to be a winner and a loser. And if I bet 100 soccer games, 30 times there's going to be a tie. And you're going to lose anyway. So, my point is this. That's the other thing about this sports, the worrying about what shape the ball is. I was looking at some of these numbers before we came on the air. I said in the beginning of the season, 52 2.38% is break even, right? So if you bet every dog in the NFL up to this point, you're 147, 130, and 1, which means you're 53.1%. So it's
Profitable.
right.
You're not a net loser.
You're not a net loser, right? You covered the vig, so to speak, by like point whatever. The point is that a lot of people get psyched out about the point spreads, and they don't realize that you could just, like, a lot of times you just flip a coin. Like, literally, people think dogs win more than favorites and favorites win. I'm talking about point spread. I'm not talking about spread, money line plays. And, just to give you an example, I'm looking here on the money lines. If you bet every favorite on the money line in football, I didn't say you're going to be profitable, 65%. So check that out, Costi. 53% of the dogs cover the point spread. But if you bet every dog straight up on the money line, you were 97, 180, and 1. You only won 35. Think about that. On the money line, the congratulations to all money line winners in the NFL. Mm-hmm. It was probably one of their worst seasons ever. 3 basically out of 10 dogs won outright. So the point spread is the great equalizer because it literally flips something that's 65% from the favorite side to flipping it on its forehead, flipping it over to 53% to the dog side, because the point spread is the great equalizer. And that goes to show you why it's so hard to beat the spread unless you have the right money management. When you look at the NBA, I'm looking right now at the current updated numbers right now as we're in the season here. And I can tell you right now. So right now, if you're betting favorites in the NBA straight up on the money line, i.e. the Bulls yesterday winning by 2, you're 388 and 215, 64.3%. You go down and you look at the point spread on the dog side, dogs are winning 54.4%, 326, 273, and 4. So once again, the point spread is the great equalizer. So you have gamblers that when they get frustrated with the point spreads, then try to go, well, I'm just going to play those favorites on the money line. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're playing the favorites on the money line, you're going to win 60% of the time. But the problem is that the money lines are so great on the point spreads. Like, what are you going to? A lot of the books don't even put up lines on 10-point favorites, money lines on 10-point favorites in the NFL. In the NBA. I'm looking at the Don Best screen right now. It's like, I'll just take the NBA tonight. I'm going to look here at the board. There's nothing really big tonight. There's no big favorites tonight. So everything has a money line. But like when a team's laying 12 or 15 points.
Right.
Then you're screwed anyway, because if you want to use that in a parlay strategy, you're not going to make any money anyway. So this is where I watch gamblers go from, let me try to pick winners on the point spread. Oh, I'm losing because I'm picking favorites that aren't covering. Because remember, that's a 50% at best exercise, whether it's dogs or favorites. Oh, I'm looking at the data on the computer. I see the favorites win outright 65% of the time. Let me just try to do all these parlays. And then they start parlaying crazy high prop. There was a guy in Vegas that used to sell this, where he would I would say, people buy into this. They would buy parlays from him, and it would be minus 1,000, minus 1,000. Oh, you're a genius. We're going to take
college basketball.
Yeah. It was dude, okay, great. So you're going to lay
they were like that. I think they were 3-team college basketball parlay money line favorites that paid 50%.
Right.
So basically, if you put up 100, you're making back 50 on a 3.
It's the same thing as laying 200 on the Bulls.
Same thing, but you're putting it in a 3-team parlay,
right?
And you're getting back. And
pull out the point spread issue, and just take high valued favorites that supposedly are going to win. But remember, if 3 to 4 out of 10 money line, because it was 35% on the money lines, you're basically saying to yourself, if I bet 4 teams or 3 teams, the odds are I'm going to go 2-1 and blow the parlay. It's like I'm not going to say the guy's name, but that guy that bet the Ravens money line and was crying, on social media, had like what do you have 180,000 when they missed the field goal to win 100 or something, on the Ravens against Pittsburgh. It was the last game the Ravens lost.
Yeah, but
my point is, why even lay the money line? Like,
but
why,
the whole thing with
point spread,
with any of that, I always say this. I don't talk bad about anybody else in this industry.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? It
doesn't matter.
There's a gazillion of them.
We have Eric has 40 years. I'm coming on 20 years being in this industry. Way before all these internet gurus have been around that drive around in the flashy cars and they walk and they have their videos where they walk up to the window and they're betting 500,000, 200,000 on a baseball game. If you walk up to the window and you're betting and they're giving you $200,000 limits for a baseball game, you are labeled a square. You are not labeled a sharp. You are literally labeled a square. So, but like we always say, there's a sucker born every day. People buy into that nonsense of the hype, individualized games because there's so many sports bettors that are so short term that they're simply in it for the hype of tonight's performance.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Right.
So like my whole thing is as vicious as I can be with the reality of why, look, when I say nobody wins and people think of how crazy this is. I'll say on my daily YouTube videos, nobody wins. And people will be like, that's really disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. So let's forget about Eric. Okay, instead of saying nobody wins, I'll change the statement. I've never seen a sports book go out of business, whether it be a local bookmaker, an offshore bookmaker, a legal bookmaker, because their clients were winning too much. So what I basically just said is nobody wins. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? Because remember, the ones when Ray was trying to figure out who we were talking about, remember, the ones that win spend 90% of their day trying to bet. They can't bet. They can't go on social media. They can't show $100,000 wager because nobody will take it. Because what do the sports books do when they perceive you to be sharp? They limit you. They don't cut you off. They limit you. So now your job is what? Doing what Micah does, trying to bet, knowing he will win as long as he can bet. They're the same statement. It's the same side of a quarter. One's heads, one's tail. They're the same. And then but if I actually say nobody wins, unless they're willing to be disciplined and bet like a trader, I get people going, man, that's really disrespectful. You're saying I have no shot. What do you mean nobody wins? I won 5,000 last week. What do you mean nobody wins? I won 20,000 2 weeks ago. What do you mean nobody wins? Okay. Like this guy was telling me he was an expert in tennis, right? Mm-hmm. And then he got limited in the sports book. And I said, well, you just answered your own question. If you're so good at fucking tennis, why aren't you just betting tennis? Oh, because if you just bet tennis, guess what? Nobody will take your action. So what do you have to do? You have to season the account. What does season the account mean? You got to add a little salt and pepper, a little oregano, a little garlic. What does that mean? It means you got to play other games that your edge is not strong. We're not going to get into the specifics, but seasoning an account is defined as trying to look like a non-professional bettor, not caring about winning and actually wanting to lose to play a game with the bookmaker so he doesn't think you're a pro. You're burning capital for a reason, so your account will last longer. So if you have the edge or you created it's the same thing with Troy. Troy plays 3 games a week and basically goes 100% for 20 years and has to literally drive and run around to 20 different casinos in Vegas and go up to Reno. It's like a nightmare. Nobody wants to take his action.
Well, and also on the pro side, I just posted a link. Highly recommend you guys click this link. This is a reel to David Miller and Spencer Cornelia. It's the explanation of expected value. It takes a minute of your time. Watch it after the show. Copy the link. It's basically explaining to you that when you're playing casino games, you're at a disadvantage. When you're playing a slot machine pays out 80 to 90 cents. So that means every time you put $1 in, the casino makes automatically 20 cents off your dollar. So you're playing at a disadvantage. When you're playing games that are non-underdog value like baseball or NHL, where you're playing a flat, we'll call it minus 110, you have to lay 110 on your losses, and obviously there's pushes involved. So basically, Dave explains that unless you're getting a better number versus the offering rate versus the closing line, you're at a disadvantage when you're playing with 10% vig. So the only way to beat that from a pro side is to get better value on the price consistently. Big Al has done that. Now, it doesn't always resonate to instantly you're automatically going to win. But if you're constantly putting in a game at a better price than the closing line, you now have a expected value, a better percentage to win in the long run. Now, when I say long run, 1,000 games. People like to think, oh, a long run is a week, 2 weeks, a month. No, 1,000 games. I know it sounds far-fetched to most to be able to have to bet 1,000 games to see a strategy resonate, but that's what it takes. This winning for us, I know it sounds crazy in the long run. Winning is easy. Betting is hard. You say it all the time, Eric, over and over again. I think people don't understand that. Winning is easy if you're properly diversified in all the different programs and syndicates that we have at our disposal. I mean, you've cultivated 40 years of experience and relationships. I've cultivated 20 years of experience in relationships. We have 60 years combined in this industry. That's why we do this show, not because we want people to call us after the show and say, I want in. It's we educate, and we do this interactive show every single week because prior to doing this on YouTube, we were on the radio for over 10 years doing the same thing with the late Brian Blessing. The same exact thing, talking about strategies and value.
90% of this is between your 2 ears. Like Stanley was saying about the boost and stuff like that. So like this is where it's like what happens basically is, like I said, the legal sports bettors are like it's nothing. It's, I understand. It's why you got to remember, why did all these states all of a sudden pass laws to make sports wagering legal? It was an additional way to tax you without you realizing you're being taxed, right? It's a sin tax. It's a alcohol tax. It's a tobacco tax, and it's a gambling tax. So they ran the numbers and they realized this is a good fucking business. We can't lose. So what do most of the people that I deal with have in common? They're not betting legally. They can't. They're already shut down. They're betting offshore. They're betting with a local guy. Anybody betting at these local, I don't want to name these publicly traded, they can't scale. It's just a matter of time until they get shut down. If they actually, now a lot of clients don't get shut down. The reason why is because they do their own craziness, which basically seasons the account along with what we're doing. But all this, like, I don't even look at this stuff. Like if I had like the 10 commandments of sports betting, thou shalt not cash out. Like, what local bookmaker lets you cash out? You make a bet, the game goes the whole game. And at the end of the game, you either win the game or you lose the game. End of story. This is the The way
there's one advantage with a legal book. You probably don't know what it is.
No, I don't know. I can't
So
bet anything. I live in Baltimore. I got 20 apps on my phone, and I can't.
No, the only advantage I have ever seen with legalized sports books. There's only one of them that does this too. Out of all the legalized sports books, probably would never think this. If you bet props and a player exits in the first half, they take that leg off of a parlay for prop bets. So if a player has an injury in the first half, they don't make you lose the bet. They actually take that leg for, it's called an early exit, which is, again, I know why they're doing it, because they want you to stick with that particular legalized sports books. I'm not going to actually name them, but it is an advantage because they're giving you an opportunity, because that shit happens. Look, a player gets hurt mid-game. Now you're not penalized if you hit 9 out of 10 player props. And instead of going, 10 out of 10, instead of losing it because the guy got hurt on other legal sports books, you now have an early exit. It is an advantage for the entertainment.
But if you're you just nailed it. So if you're a syndicate bettor, you wouldn't even be looking at props, so it wouldn't matter. So therefore, you just
they do. Syndicate bettors look at props,
I understand,
on a very small scale. They're limited.
Micah does props. Let me begin it. His average account, he's betting $100 a prop.
Right.
So he needs literally like 1,000 accounts to make it worthwhile. Like the average person is, for me, like it's just not worth. It's not worth. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, so to speak. It's just not worth it. You know what I mean? To try to sell that information to clients. I've had people call me, I'll pay you for props. Sorry, I don't offer that product. It's just not, the juice isn't worth this. It's like, you got to have a life. For me, like for a guy that isn't into sports whatsoever, just checks the scores. I mean, people really think I'm joking that Costi will tell you, I literally, a lot of times don't even check the scores. Just go to the office and I'll say to Costi, how'd we do yesterday? He'll have to tell me.
But you're actually look, I talk to a lot of people outside of the YouTube community that we have here. And I have a very close friend of mine who is a fan. He is a fan, but all of his people and business associates that are EV bettors, not one of them is a fan and doesn't watch any sports. They're engineers. They are guys that are quants. You can call them on the nerdy side. They don't know the players. They don't care about the teams. They're simply building out software where they could indicate where a specific legalized sports book is off compared to the going rate. And they're betting high volume. They're betting in-game. It's a lifestyle to them. This is not something where you could bet it and forget it. It is not something that is resellable. It's simply something that they do for a living themselves, and they're very successful at it. So what does that basically say? I say that to say, if you think about winning and you want to be a long-term winner in betting sports, it is going to be extremely boring. It's going to be the opposite of hype. And most people can't fathom or can't stomach that it's not the way to make money in the sports business is to make it extremely boring with high volume and just doing it long term.
And the other thing is then there's this other issue. Like I've noticed the last couple of weeks, I've had these guys that live in states where it's not legal, i.e. California, Texas, and then they want to use, they don't understand. It's very hard to fund accounts unless you're using crypto. And then it's like, oh, I can only put in $300 a day in my account or $1,000 a day with a credit card. And I'm like, open up an account, even if you're not investing in crypto, just to learn how to fund your account properly, because you have to be in a position. If you were trading stocks or you were trading futures or you were trading commodities, that the most important thing is funding your account. So like a guy will say to me, oh yeah, I can bet 500 a game, but he can only put in $100, $500 a day. Like, dude, Well, I've never do the work. So a lot of guys, it's like they don't treat it like they would treat any other business. You can't run a business with $500 a day. And then it's, so you get it's like this, the legal guys have their issues, right? With the sports books limiting them if they win. And then the states, remember, we always talk about legalization of sports wagering. That's 39 states plus DC. There's still 10 other states where it's not, right? Where they're not going to do anything. You remember, you can wager whatever. With offshore, it didn't matter. Like to us, so this is like the big thing that most people will probably be shocked at, Costi. Most people, because I've been doing this 40 years, think that my clientele expanded because sports wagering is now legal. What happened?
I don't know.
You can still hear me, but you can't see me?
Right.
All right, I'll figure that out. Oh, I kind of like it. It's kind of cool. Most people, I'm figuring out why I'm talking, but let me finish my point because you all know what I look like anyway. Most people don't realize that our business did not increase with legalization of sports wagering. What increased was degenerate parlay bettors. Like no whale that's a client of mine that's betting $50,000 a game could even do that at a legal sports book, even if it's legal in the state that he's in. So he was offshore anyway. So, when we drive around and people recognize us at the car dealership and they go, oh, your business must be 10X because of the legal. No, it's for the college student that's betting $5 parlay cards. Do you concur? It's the same.
I do. There's been a lot of publication about the college student that is just addicted to the parlay betting, and it's unfortunate. When I got into this industry, where I stumbled into it originally, because I actually was that college student, but I wasn't betting parlays with my buddies. I mean,
Right.
with legal sports books. I had credit accounts, and I wasn't actually a parlay better. I actually couldn't even bet parlays with the credit guy that I had, but I was betting with an opinion, and I was getting crushed. And I was like, man, I've always been a numbers guy. I've always been intrigued. I've traded crypto before. I've done it all. But in my early 20s, I was just very naive to think that just because I played football means I'm going to be good at picking football and making money with it. And I realized a very tough lesson, a financial lesson, that I didn't win. And I had enough pain. So then I dove into it, and I said, there's got to be people that win in this industry. I was lucky enough to connect with certain people that were sharps back in 2008, 2009. And those guys were winners, but they didn't win like I won or what I thought it was going to look like. It was completely different. It was completely far-fetched. And it had everything to do with about price of the game, not the game itself. And I couldn't it never could resonate with me that really was the reason. I was like, what do you mean? I know the coaches, I know the players, I know the schemes, I know the situation. But in reality, none of that mattered. It had everything to do with the price, and it had everything to do with a large sample size. So I was that guy. But unfortunately now you have people that could literally start an account when they're 21 with $5 in it, and they could deposit $5 in it 5 million times, and then they become chasers. And then when you add alcohol into the mix, now people are betting without a conscience, and now they're really putting themselves in financial hardships very early on. And obviously, it's not a typical client for us. Unfortunately, it's just part of the game, and that's something we can't control with the legalized sports books. But there's a lot of people out there that are misappropriating their funds with these stupid parlay cards. It was back then, the parlay cards, I had to literally drive to Delaware to bet a parlay card. Now they could do it from their phone, and it becomes an adult video game, which a lot of people end up facing these tough, painful lessons. So I always say, if you don't have a bankroll that you could afford to lose, don't bet on sports. And no matter what I say, they're still going to do it anyway. But I was that guy in my early 20s. I'm glad I woke up and didn't continue that trend. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have the knowledge or education to do it differently. And they just run in that hamster wheel over and over and over again. Because then what happens is, let's say they have a $10,000 loss. Even for somebody that's in college, that's a huge loss. Now they're chasing that next parlay that is going to make them back the entire 10,000 in one shot. And that's where it becomes a problem, because they may hit it, not saying they can't.
I've talked to so many guys that have hit for 6 figures on the parlays that instead of calling us when they just won it and they want to protect it, they call us after they blew it and then want us to try to recreate what they did incorrectly. It's like, we were joking the other day. My stepfather is 80s. My dad and my stepfather are the same age, 86, 87. And the liquor store is next to my gym. I told you the story. I'm pulling into the gym. Out of the right corner of my eye, I see my stepfather getting out of the car, running in right before the midday. He's a degenerate, total degenerate. And so I walk in and I say to the guy behind, and I'm pulling the cash out of my pocket. And he's like, give me this for the midday, and give me this for the evening, and give me this for tomorrow's midday, and give me this for the evening. And then I just yell over, I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, run it twice. And then I throw the money at him, right? That's fun. That's bonding over gambling that you're definitely going to lose, and it's a bonus if you win. That's okay. That guy's 80s, like my mother, love her, God love her, 80 years old, torturing this man that he's wasting money with the lottery. Mom, he's 87. He's been playing the number since he's 13 years old in Baltimore City. He's an old school numbers guy. Let him play the goddamn number. It's like, it's fun. And it's like, there is a component of the wagering that is fun and it's communal. The whole rah-rah at the bar and jumping up and down and high-fiving. Yeah, it was fun a couple times, and then it was like done. And I just don't know how people could live their whole, like, every weekend, every day. Once they realize it's a business, and once they realize that, you're looking at screens. Like when I show this is like, this is $6,000 a year just for what you're looking at right here. It's $500 a month, which if you're a professional bettor, it's just the cost of doing business. It's like having access to a Bloomberg terminal. And it doesn't help you pick winners. It gives you access to information. But, I'm not a total, like, Grinch when it comes to gambling. There is that communal part every year for the Preakness. My same, love him dearly, degenerate stepfather. He won't go to the racetrack, even though it's right around the corner from us. He gives me the tickets. He gives me the numbers. I go, I run in, I bet the tickets. He always says to come into the house to get the money. I always go, yeah, I'm going to come. I just do it. I just lay it out. And I say, well, if you win, you'll pay me out of the winnings. Then when he loses, he tries to give me the money back. And I go, no. And so, like, we have this thing going and it's fun, and that's okay. Gamble like that for fun, but don't spend 7 days a week doing that. Have a portion of your wagering that's recreational for fun. Enjoy it. No, it's just fun. You win, you lose, who cares? But the other 90% of the wagering should be more on the pro side.
Great show today. I feel like we dropped some good information. Thank you guys for asking questions. As always, we try to do a interactive show, but we need your interaction to be able to answer your questions. So I feel like there was a lot of good questions today. We appreciate you guys. We will be back here next week for episode number 36, Tales from the Ticket. If you want to get a hold of us for any interest of any of the products that we offer, the number's right in the description of this video. And with that being said, wrap it up. The hour of power is complete. Any last words, Eric?
That's it for you. Oh yeah, for you. I redid my website for you guys that want to see about the other products and services. Again, read the bio, what I do, how long I've been doing it. You can go to Eric, ERICPATHI.com. Again, nothing to buy. What you notice in these shows, 1 hour, we don't tell you to call us. We don't tell you we got a promo. We don't tell you got to. We're here to educate for free. And then we leave it to you guys if you want to actually, do something with us. So that's it.
All right, guys. Be back here next week. Then we're basically at the tail end of football. Next time we do this show, it's only going to be.
We'll talk about the Giants' $100 million contract.
Yeah, John Harbaugh next week. All right, guys. And everybody have a wonderful winning day. Reach out to us if you like. We'll be back. We will be back here next week as always.